Hi everyone, I'm Richard Litofsky, co-founder and CEO of MadVR Labs. I'm coming to you from Audio Advice 2025 in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is our fourth consecutive year with the show running for its fourth consecutive time. Really excited to be with you here today and to show you some of the benefits of the MadVR NB video processor. So we have two units. We have an NB Core and we have an NB Extreme. The NB Core is best suited for use on TVs, ultra short throw projectors generally in the entry-level range or entry to mid-level range, as well as other places in the house where you may want to have like a secondary viewing experience. The NB Extreme is really more for the dedicated theater spaces, ones that have a more elaborate budget and have some additional features. But largely everything that we cover here today is going to be in both products. If it's covers something that's not, I'll be sure to let you know. So the NB Extreme is a video processor, and same thing with the Core. You connect the AVR, instead of going to your display, your TV, your projector, whatever you're using, you send it into the NV, and then you take the output of the NV into the display. So it's very easy to set up, install. We also have amazing training videos on our website, madvrnb.com. It's our official dealer training, so it's open to the public, and you're able to go through it and take all the lessons just like you were one of our dealers, learning how to get up the product. It's great to cover all the nuances, everything from the most basic, what's in the box, how do I set it up, to the more advanced settings. So there's a number of different features that the NB has. We're going to start right now on our HDR dynamic tone mapping, which is a patented tone mapping system. And we're here with this beautiful Sony 9 TV. It's the BRAVIA. It's a fantastic TV. And I should preface what I'm about to show you is saying that this is not unique to the Sony. We're not picking on any brand. It's amazing display. In fact, I think it just won like best TV in a popular shootout. However, most displays, be it TVs, projectors, video walls, they have some challenges when it comes to rendering more difficult HDR scenes. And so we're all about perfection and trying to pull the best contrast and HDR highlights and inky blacks out of every scene. So we're going to start here. I don't know how well the camera will pick this up, but this is a scene from the Spears and Munsell HDR benchmark disc. You can go ahead and get that off of Amazon if you'd like. And this is actually running through the Sony, bypassed through a splitter that's bypassing the NV and going straight to input 4. And I'm going to now switch over to the NV and pay attention to the detail and the difference. So you can see now and appreciate the difference that this makes in bringing out the HDR tone mapping. Now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at another scene, this one from Harry Potter. Okay, so now we're at Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, and you can see here, you got the HDR and you got some saturation here. You can see Harry's face, okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to switch over to bypass the NV's HDR tone mapping by using the TV's tone mapping. And now you can see that it's entirely blown out. I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but instead of having the bright highlight here, it's spread over to the point of completely obfuscating Harry's face. So this is about picture quality, but it's also about storytelling. There's another scene in here where there's two ghosts of Harry's parents in very bright background, and with the NB, you can make out clearly that these are Harry's parents, but without the NB, you can't really even make out that they're ghosts and there's figures. Okay, so that's the HDR dynamic tone mapping. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you another feature, which is our subtitle handling. And we're showing dynamic subtitle overlay, which has never been seen before today. It's a new innovation. It's a sneak peek. Yeah. It's coming out soon, but keep in mind, this is an alpha build. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. Okay, so let's talk about subtitles for a moment. Subtitles on the rise in popularity. They're being used more and more in importance, not just for accessibility and hearing, but for storytelling, picking up on cues that are going on that you may not know otherwise, that they give you nice hints in the subtitle, as well as comprehension. Some people find that, they're able to listen better by also reading and kind of remembering what's going on in the story as opposed to trying to process the audio and video together. In fact, a recent study shows that about 50% of adults 18 to 35 years old are using subtitles, which is You use subtitles as well? Yeah. And so it's like we were talking about, it's not just, for people that having difficulty hearing. And so the challenge that we have is that subtitles, let's face it, they can be annoying and there can be a nuisance. Why? Because for one thing, if you have a scope screen, they wind up in the black bar area and zoomed off of your screen. So for those of you that are listening that have a scope screen and then we watch subtitles and on scope movies, you already are well aware of the pain point of having this, okay? I should mention that dynamic subtitle overlay that we're covering here does require at least some of the subtitle to be in the black bar, which it is on all scope movies, generally speaking. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is let's talk about this. You got number one, the first problem is it's in the black bar and you can't see it. So what does this really look like? Okay, so right now this image is set up. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, hang on one second. I have to tell it that it is a 235 screen. Okay, so actually we were using nonlinear stretch without realizing it to fill some of that black bar.
Right.
That's how good it is. I didn't even realize that it was on. Okay, so what we're looking at here is what we were talking about. This is another example of what happens when you have a subtitle that's in the black bar and in the content area. Normally you would not see that. So essentially we have the TV set up right now to act like it is a 235 screen, or actually 240. And so this up here, this black bar and this black bar, these are not black bars. Those are just pretend that's not even there. It's not part of a screen. So if this was a 16:9, if this was a 235 TV, it would have this exact shape.
Right.
Okay. So let's go ahead and show you. This is what it would look like if we did not have any subtitle handling. Okay. Now, what happened to the other line? Well, it's down here. Okay, why don't we see this? Because it's now on our masking or on our wall. Remember, there's no screen here. Okay, so it's really there, but you're zoomed out to see it, or if you're on a 221:9 flat panel. Okay, and then there it is. So what we do, our current subtitle handling, which we've used for the past couple of years that customers absolutely love, is we dynamically shrink the image and bring back the black bar so it fits, right? So if you look at this as the bottom of the image, okay, here's the bottom, okay? And then when we bring it back, we raised it up, okay? And so the bottom is still here, but we shrunk the image. The only issue with this is that it's kind of disruptive to the movie when the subtitles come and the image has to shrink. And then when the subtitles, the dialogue's done, it goes back. Like, it's not ideal.
Right.
So we set out to find a way to solve this, and along with the other issues, right? Because as you're looking at this, what else about this can be bothersome? Number one, they're very bright. Okay, you have pretty much a fairly dark APL, average picture level here, yet the subtitles are glaring bright. Okay, this is going to result in eye strain, eye fatigue. You got to watch a 2-hour movie, 3-hour movie. Like, this works on you over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
And so this is a reason people don't like to use subtitles. And the other thing about it is it's also very large. Why does it need to be this big? Generally, you want to be able to hear it better or read it, but you don't need it that large. So what we did is we created Dynamic Subtitle Overlay, which is what we're talking about here, the new solution that's designed to address all of these challenges and take subtitles from something that's frustrating and annoyance, but like a necessary evil, into something fun, adaptive, interactive, and something that you can enjoy. And if it's because the person you're watching with needs it, you can still enjoy having it on without being distracted by it, while your partner can enjoy the movie how they need to watch it.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and I'll put this on. Okay, so this is step one of what we do, okay? Which is we bring the subtitles up without having to move the black bar, okay? So remember, this is the end of our TV or our 240 screen, and I move it up. Remember how we had to shrink the image to fit? Okay? Now instead, we move it up. Okay, so we're dynamically cutting these pixels out in real time, figuring out what are the subtitle pixels, because this is not like a text file. This is pixels baked in. The video processor otherwise doesn't know the difference between the subtitle and his hand, for example.
Right.
So we're dynamically removing the area that's in the picture. We're then doing what's called infilling, which is to be able to then fill in the holes smartly in a way where you don't have a black outline or a big hole there. And then we're basically cutting all this out and then pasting it back into the subtitle area while making it all look nice and natural like that. So when you think about that, like, look where this is. Destroyed here is across the bottom of his hand, okay? Here, it's up, look where the bottom of his hand is. Like, it's so natural, okay? So the other thing that we do is we add this box, this transparent. You control the opacity of it if you want. And this allows you to have more contrast to be able to best read the subtitles. Now, the other thing we talked about is why do they need to be so big, right? Well, they don't. Okay, so I'll go down through 5%, 10%, 15, 20, 25. It's kind of like where I'm landing on, what's comfortable for me. Okay, and so instead of them looking like this, we're now looking like this. Okay, now the other thing is, why do they have to be so bright, right? So we have our brightness limiter, which matches the brightness to the average pixel level. So I'll go ahead and turn that on. And now you can see, so this is the difference. So by doing this, it makes it so much more easier on your eyes. But wait, there's more. One of my favorite features is our adaptive color for the text. Okay? So you can pick any color you wanted, you know, like this that we have, but adaptive has really been a big hit here at the show. Let me get to adaptive right there. So adaptive, way that works is that it matches the subtitles color, which may be really hard to pick up here. It's kind of like a faintish, you know, blue hue. But over here is, you know, it's picking up the predominant color palette and using the colors in there. It has a nice transition. So it's not an abrupt change as the scene changes or the things change in the background. And so what I do is, in a nutshell, compare that subtitle to this subtitle. Okay, so without NV or with our old school NV processing, you're going to have this, or with this in the content area. And then with it, you've got something much more approachable. Okay, so let's also look at the difference. Like, I'm going to now go to, let's go back to the beginning of this scene. Okay, watch the subtitles just kind of fade to a nice blue, and now it's like matching the whole feel of the scene. And then as like now it's got a little bit more magenta, purple kind of going. So camera may not be picking up on those details or those subtleties, but it is very easy on your eyes, right? So now you've got a scene like this where the subtitles look this, they're nice and readable, they're small, they're not intrusive, and then we're going to switch it to this, right? And so the whole point is that now people can enjoy subtitles without having the frustrations and the annoyances with all the nuances that they created, right? We don't want them to be a nuisance. We want them there because it's helpful, but not at the expense of immersion. And that's the purpose of DSO. Okay, so everything that we talked about so far has been in the MV Core and the MV Extreme, although Dynamic Subtitle Overlay will require the Core Premium package, which is an add-on software package that unlocks a specific set of features for the MV Core. But if you have the MV Core Premium will allow you to have those features, access to several other features, as well as doubles your warranty from 2 to 4 years. And if you go to MadVRMV.com, there is a comparison where it will show you all the different features that are available in the package. But it's available, so it'll be in the MV Core Premium. The the MV Pro, which is not here at the show, and the MV Extreme. Okay. Now we're going to show Motion AI, which is exclusive to the MV Extreme. Okay. The Motion AI is the world's first AI-based motion interpolation. Motion interpolation is sort of a dirty word. People turn it off when they get a TV because it kind of ruins the look of the film. And so what we did is we set out to not try to create motion interpolation, of course, but to try to perfect it. And we did that using AI and extremely fine level control over the strength. So for example, if we look at this strength, you know, right now it's on Insane, which is the highest level. These are presets that you can pick.
Yeah.
All the way up to Insane Plus for those that really love things super smooth. And that's also great when you're dealing with like concerts, sporting events, you know, that being able to jack things up is really important to, you know, really get that best experience. So right now, let's go ahead and we're going to run this. I'm going to put it on off. Okay. And I'm going to run this. And you can just see all the judder. And you'll see the judder when it turns. And if you're filming at 24 or 30, you're not going to probably pick up what it does at 60 and 120, but you'll be able to, you know, we can describe to the viewers what it is. You see all that shake that you see there. Okay. And this is native 24p.
Right.
Okay. So the director intended for you to see these films primarily in the big screen in commercial cinemas. OLEDs, LCDs, SXRD, DILA, a lot of these technologies, they use what's called sample and hold, and I won't get too technical, but essentially because of the way the technology works, it has a tendency to increase judder or motion blur. So people will say, I don't want to use motion interpolation because I want director's intent. But ironically, the TV is sort of changing director's intent. So if you use just a small amount of Motion AI on one of the low settings, you can undo some of that jarring judder and motion blur, right? And so, for example, I'm going to put it on, right now I'm going to turn it on, but I'm going to put it on low. Okay?
I can already tell it.
And watch. So you can still see kind of like that shake and that look of 24p.
Yeah.
Okay? But watch when I turn it off. You see how much more exaggerated that gets?
Yep.
Off. On. Off. Okay? So people will often say when we do a demo, okay, I couldn't tell it was on when it was on low or cinematic, but then what's the benefit? If I couldn't tell it was on, it must not really be doing anything. But when we show, okay, this is how it looks on and off, they can appreciate that benefit.
Right.
Some other key features of the product are upscaling is AI-based upscaling. We're still watching a lot of 1080p content here in the US, other parts of the world, all our broadcast TV, you know, whether it's cable TV or satellite TV, whatever it is. Unfortunately, for a while, it seems like we're still going to, maybe we'll get one football game on the weekend in 4K. But it's very small pickings. So being able to upscale that, make it look like 4K is really a big difference. We talked about subtitle management. We have nonlinear stretch where we can get rid of the black bars on 16:9 screen. So speaking of football, when I'm watching football, I like to use nonlinear stretch. So if you have a scope screen and you're watching 16:9 content, you will wind up being able to enjoy this. Now, what's really interesting is you would expect, since it's non-linear, it gets stronger and stronger as you move out to the edge. When you move here, notice how natural the safety player still looks back here.
Yeah.
You expect them to be giant and wide or really short.
Right.
But it's bidirectional. It's a patent pending technique. We're the only ones that do nonlinear stretch in both directions. So whether you've got a scope screen and you want to get rid of the black bars when you're watching sports or documentaries or whatever it may be, you can do that. And likewise, if you have a 16:9 TV, those that have a 16:9 TV or screen, I'm sure are familiar with the challenge that comes from the black bars, because you've got your nice 55 or 65 or 77 or maybe even like your 98 or 100-inch TV, and then you go to put your first movie on, you're like, wait, what's this? All right, and you have these giant black bars on the top and bottom. Exactly 28%. We like to say about 30% is what you lose. And so with the nonlinear stretch, you can actually bring back some of that content. So you can bring back about half or more and still get the benefit, and without telling it stretched, and make it much more immersive and make your 100-inch now look closer to a 100-inch rather than making it look like a 77-inch if you shelled out all that additional money for the larger screen, because you don't have to take the hit on those black bars. So let's take a look at one quick example of that. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to tell the TV that it is now a 16:9 TV instead of pretending to be scope for our other examples.
Yep.
Here you go, fill in the entire screen. Okay, however, this is really supposed to look like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so look at the difference in immersion. Okay, now personally, I feel it goes a little bit too much to stretch it the entire way.
Yeah.
Okay, what I like,
I could see.
I want to do it on my brain.
yeah. So
Those
what?
lines are a little curved.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I like to do, so now we're taking a look at using nonlinear stretch on 16:9 instead of going all the way like we talked about earlier. Personally, I like to leave just a bit. It looks more like a bezel than a black bar, and now it looks much more natural, and you cannot tell that it's being stretched. And typically, like for example, at Cedia, we have about we have about a dozen different setups coming up at Cedia that will be using a MadVR MV across the show floor.
Oh, yeah.
And all of these partners, most of them, except for the dedicated rooms, tend to use 16:9 screens, TVs, or smaller screens, and they all generally are set up like this. Mm-hmm. And you get thousands of people walking by and looking at stuff and don't realize the level of immersion, but you have this instead of this.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I'll take this every day of the week compared to this.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, in a nutshell, we talked about motion AI, we talked about upscaling, we talked about subtitle management, we talked about nonlinear stretch. We also have things for control, being able to do calibrations, to control the colors and the gamut. We can come out and do a professional calibration. You can bring in a third party to do it. The MV acts as a middleman and will connect all the patterns and do everything. And the 3D LUTs are massive and you get really a image that's super precise and sharp and right to reference quality. And then you also have things like IP control, integration with control systems. The MV also, with the core premium package or pro or extreme, will integrate directly with screen masking, with your AVR, with your display, without even needing a control system. And when we talked about HDR dynamic tone mapping and the other thing that goes along with it, we didn't really talk about it, but with the MV, you no longer need any lens memory. So you're going to zoom out to fill your scope screen, and you'll put that remote in the drawer. You'll never use it again. And when you go back to the Apple TV menu after watching a movie, it's not going to be on the ceiling and the floor. And when you start a movie, it's not going to look like a postage stamp that you have to then wait for it to zoom out. And when you're watching a multiple aspect ratio movie, then it's just automatically changing, giving you constant image height the whole time. So I hope this has been helpful. Please go to madvrmv.com. There's information there about guides. There's information about our training, like I mentioned earlier, as well as all sorts of resources, past newsletters. We talk about different features, and we welcome you and any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.